Let's talk about authentic expression.
That's a huge one.
Huge.
And it's a huge key. When one expresses from the fullness of self authentically, not for approval of another,
Mhm.
truly in the moment, what is moving through as inspiration, whether to speak, not to speak, if it's laughter, if it's crying, if it's dancing, all that is authentic expression is the gateway for the infinite to flow through you. In fact, it is the infinite flowing through you, which is also your genius. And that delivers an unfolding of a benevolent dream, a dream of magic and miracles. It truly is that simple, though many have been told that you have to do X in order to appear masterful or be successful or have approval. And currently, um, more than ever, based on algorithms and or stories of success, it is all based on how many likes you have, how many people can you influence, how approved of are you by the many, and this is how you're going to be successful. Do you see how that would be a complete diminishing of your vastness? Because you have now made yourself so small in order to fit into the guidelines of the masses, in order to be approved of, and it squashes genius.
I also think that in addition to the matrix and the surface instant gratifications that we can receive and that most beings want, I think a lot of the so-called filtering comes from societal norms and from family, how you were raised. I think there's so many factors that contribute to that. And I do have to say that expressing authentically is something that I have struggled with my whole entire life. And it's not until recently where I really feel like I'm mastering this a lot more. But I just wanted to share that because it's something I've struggled with. And I think that if I'm struggling with it, other people, other beings are as well. But it really is a struggle. I've played small my entire life.
Yes. And when you really look at this, we're looking at it from a broad manner. Though when you take on roles, any form of a role or a
Mhm.
mask based on, and you've done it innocently based on upbringing. So it can be a cultural role,
Right.
it can be a role within family, within peers, friends at work, and you define yourself by that role. You are now wearing the masks of those roles that you believe to be true, limiting the fullness of your full capacity as a genius expression of the one. And you are then a puppet on a string, because
Mhm.
every mask and or role that you take on, even innocently, and claim fully as your own and define as your being, you are now being puppeted by that string.
And even if you think about these roles that you're taking on, who gave you those roles? It wasn't you. So essentially, it's not even your role.
If you are to fit in to a norm in society, what
Mhm.
is approved of in the masses, you have to behave within defined structures that are approved of.
Mhm.
At that point, you are compromising your true expression to fit in.
Mhm.
When you express authentically in the moment beyond any role, you can't even say in this moment what that will be. You are expressing authentically, and it can therefore not be puppeted because it's your truth.
Mhm.
That is the key that allows for the infinite to move through you. At that point, in every moment, the guidance is given. Your genius, this infinite intelligence moves through you. It isn't coming from a slew of books that you've read, or or this aspect of infinite years of study in order to be a mastery. The mastery is your divine inheritance, and it's yours automatically.
I'm gonna shut. Did you see Lily come in? He opened the door.
I didn't see, I closed my eyes a lot of times when we're talking. Oh, there he is. I love him.
He's figured out how to open the door.
I'm here for it.
What I was thinking while you were so eloquently speaking, elegant and eloquent, is that when you talk about fitting in, it's not even only someone being like larger than life and but they want to fit into the matrix and so they have to filter themselves. It can also be making others feel comfortable around you with who you are. Do you see what I mean? So it's not like, oh, you want to fit in to be in like a group or a community or whatever. It can simply just be you dimming yourself down so that others are more comfortable around you.
Correct. And that
All of
is
that.
suppression and oppression of your truth.
Hmm.
So if it's a coping mechanism, because it actually becomes a coping mechanism in that you feel that your authentic expression is too much for quote unquote the other, which is an illusion, you then want to keep the status quo and keep everybody comfortable. And at that point, you are suppressing your own genius and you have shut your heart down and you are bleeding your currency, which is your energy, your consciousness, to the other.
Hmm.
Only then to feel this sense of, and when you sit with this truth, you will feel whenever it's been done how horrible it feels.
And denying your truth, it puts a stop to all sorts of areas to your life. You're not able to really be abundant in every single area that you could be. It stunts it. That was the word I was looking for. Being filtered in any way and not expressing authentically stunts every single part of your life because you're anchored to something, someone, something, and you're not free to receive. But it really like, I mean, just from personal experience, it stunts you.
And it's so subtle, it
Hmm.
really takes making the decision to be so self-presencing that you have an awareness as to how you're so present in the moment in all that you're doing that you can recognize, okay, perhaps I'm going to create a scenario, a situation in which everybody is reacting emotionally in a sad manner, in a grief filled scenario, and you experience it and you're not feeling grief,
Hmm.
but you then emote these, you feel, oh my gosh, everybody else is in grief and sadness and drama, perhaps I should be ignited this way, and then you take it on and now you are doing it because you've registered it as an emotional reaction that is necessary in the moment. That is not authentic. How much of our interaction and expression, and I pose this because I'm constantly monitoring and holding an intention that every bit of my expression is authentic, not for the approval of another, not to make somebody else comfortable, because truthfully, the very nature of me living in full surrender and allowing for my being to express, the infinite to express through me, it is a gift to life and at the same time a gift to self. And therefore it is a blessing because it comes with no preconceived notion of any have to, anything mental, any construct. It is organic and it is moving from wholeness because the heart is open. Therefore it is life giving and a blessing to life and a blessing to life that is self. So is it necessary to always speak? Many times silence is the key. If you feel that it isn't necessary to speak, even when someone is seeking to hear something from you, you honor that nudge and you remain silent.
Hmm.
Is it powerful to be so present that when somebody is pulling on you innocently, so you're experiencing someone seeking to get a sympathy from you, anger from you, chaos from you, and you observe it, and what comes from you is not you're being puppeted by a reactive expression. Instead, it's something that moves through you authentically. You have now dissolved that illusion before you, or the illusion that is trying to have you dance based on the choreography of a structured matrix. And now you are dancing and your steps in choreography, your dance is an automatic dance expressed by the one.
Was there something that happened in your studies or otherwise that made you want to share this?
Well, yes, first, I mean, you bring up studies, and in my studies, I want to honor Almeen, as all of the wisdom being imparted is from her, and this is what is shared. So as I've studied it, I've taken the wisdom and then I relay it. So one of the tones that I was looking at was living free from others' approval. No approval from others can ever be valid, for they cannot understand the unique perspectives and contributions of our lives. Do you feel the freedom in your being able to completely and authentically express without feeling the need to be approved of by anyone? You are a being as vast as the cosmos. When you are living for the joy of living, you are not in any way seeking the approval of another, and therefore then defined by the standards, regulations, definitions, perceptions of being imposed upon you by the unreal. You're free.
Mhm.
And so vast you are that you are given the opportunity as a child to express infinite vast tones of genius and discover yourself in them without any preconceived notions, labels, roles that have been imposed upon you. And so that really brought forth the importance of self-expression, because when you self-express, you are not controlled, you're free. And this is all about being free, to truly be free, to live life and have a love affair with life and stimulate possibilities through joy and delight in the opportunity to experience a planet so rich with beauty, and the beauty of self is freedom. And when we are conditioned innocently into seeking the approval of family members, seeking the approval of society, seeking the approval of what is being dictated in social media, in the news, to be good, what is bad, you are controlled, you are being puppeted, because then at that point you are expressing from what you feel is the standard of goodness,
Mhm.
and you are now no longer in your authentic expression.
And for instance, when I say that I've played small, like I think most people will be like, what are you talking about? You've done A, B, and C, D, E, F, G. But we know on the basis of everything I've gone through that I have. So even those opinions on if you've done one thing, if you played small, if you haven't, that also doesn't matter because you know in your heart. So I think that for me, and I'm going to ask you the same question, like what is the best way to start expressing authentically? It's to go inward and start disavowing the standards that you feel have been placed on you, or the instructions, the rules, the stereotype, right? Any of those ways that you've been placed inside a box and have been trapped inside that box. But you really have to go inward to discover what those are, because you may not even know because you're just busy living out here in the world, you know? And so you really have to get quiet and go inward and think about it. Ask your inner child.
That's one thing that was very powerful, and hold the intention to discover those roles and labels. If you hold the intention to discover them, you could even write them down and then declare that you are no longer going to be puppeted by these roles, by these tones. As soon as you define yourself wholly by one thing, you are now excluding all of the infinite vast possibilities that are yours to explore. So you're freeing yourself to having such a life full of adventure
Mhm.
and magic and discovery when you're no longer bound to these specific roles. So you can begin to identify them and write them down and then declare. But in order to identify them, you have to go into inner space. You have to go inward. And again, self-expression. This is always going to be about the self. We see life played out for the other, everything outside of the self, but the power is with self. Everything is about self. And in order to access self, you have to come home to self, which is in inner space, is this communion of discovering self. What makes my heart sing? What inspires me? And then you follow those tones. Hold not back your laughter or your tears. We touched on that the
Mhm.
first time we came together in this dance and alchemy. If you're not holding back laughter or tears, if you're not holding back the desire to dance, the desire to giggle, the desire to just be, you are expressing from the fullness of being and you are discovering yourself, your vast self that is undefinable, cannot be labeled, cannot be in any way controlled. Your infinite perspective is going to be yours always. Somebody else cannot begin to ever truly know you.
Mhm.
You are unknowable. And from that, you are free. And when you recognize that of self, and this is an adventure of exploration with what is the many, you can then free them because you are so authentically self that that field of power is then felt when you presence before the other, holding them in the most sacred tone, in awe of what you're discovering of self. And therefore, you are silently giving room and permission for the other to express authentically as well.
And for the others that have maybe placed that role upon you, right? Because I think it's really easy to blame or be angry or have a disillusioned feeling about that person putting that role or stereotype or rules upon you. But when you know
That,
that,
that is a riddle because
yeah,
if they put it on you, the only way that that becomes a string that can puppet you is because you've allowed for it. When
mhm,
it is dissolved, then you are the sovereign cause of what is unfolding in your freedom. So now you're free, and the infinite is expressing through you as the one. You are that, and therefore that role, the quote unquote other, can't puppet you any longer, and that shifts the dance of your experience because you're no longer in the old dance, and so the new moment is birthed with a whole new alchemical possibility.
and relationship
Mhm.
to that
A
other
fusion
person.
of relationship, yeah.
Yeah, it's really incredible. It can take a lot of inner work,
But
but
all the
really
only work, and we've
incredible.
touched on this before, is this is the only work you'll ever do.
Hmm.
And then you realize how exciting it is that there isn't anything other than your fully being you in every moment. There is no role to fulfill, being good or being successful. You're authentically expressing in every moment allows for you to access all of the resources of the one of life. And then life is supporting you. You're also not bleeding your energy to fit into something. Your
Hmm.
heart then is open and you're expressing. In fact, it is through an open heart with the infinite expressing through you that you, in fact, are always safe and held. We've been taught to believe that that's not the case.
Hmm.
So the heart shuts down and you begin to be controlled by these strings and you begin to react emotionally and behave based on guidelines that you aren't even aware are imposed upon you.
Hmm.
So this is about discovering that and giving yourself permission to express your truth based on every moment and the inspiration that you feel in that moment.